Good morning to all readers and viewers of Tax Sutra. I thank Arun, Giri, Bharti Gandhi, and everybody else at Tax Sutra for inviting me to speak on what I think the budget should do. I think this is perhaps the most important budget that has in the recent past, particularly because we have come out of a very bad period for circumstances beyond the government's control. As all of you know, as per the economic survey, the economy shrink by 7.7%, which is a staggering amount. And the papers say that even if we grow at 11%, the net growth will only be 2.4%. It will take now 2 years for us to reach the pre-pandemic level. In a nutshell, it's a serious situation which has to be tackled with bold measures. Well, of course, the government has to be congratulated for controlling the pandemic. Compared to many other countries, we are far better off. And the vaccine also gives a lot of hope in the near future. As far as the taxation is concerned, I expect a fundamental shift from a tax policy which is based on revenue maximization to something which is based on growth maximization. Our tax policy must be such that it encourages growth and does not simply focus on revenue collection, irrespective of the collateral damage that it can do. The most egregious example is the Vodafone retrospective amendment. But apart from that, there are several other changes, not only in direct taxes, but indirect taxes, which have proved to be a great dampener and a serious setback. In fact, many foreign clients, they are, of all the things, they are most concerned with the manner in which our taxation policies are drafted and implemented. So we have to first change that thing and have real policy which encourage growth and not simply focus on collecting as much money as possible in whatever way. Now, on the specifics, I would like to see in that certain provisions which are completely destructive of growth are taken away. I have never understood Section 2, subsection 24, clause 18, which seeks to tax a subsidy as income. I mean, I never understood the logic. If a state government is going to give me subsidy for setting up a unit in a backward area or setting up units in a new growth area, what is the purpose in taxing that subsidy as my income? And the clause goes on further to even take concessions, benefits given as income. That has to really go. Just to give an example, we keep saying that the real estate sector is the third largest generator of employment. It has a huge domino effect. But if you see the statutory provisions, they are hardly conducive to the growth of the sector. I don't see why we should have a cap on interest on commercial and other assets. There should be no cap on the interest that is allowed while calculating income from house property. Similarly, I would be very happy if 43CA is deleted. It is very unfair to tax the builders on the difference between stamp duty valuation and the actual valuation. All of us know that the stamp duty valuation in most cases is completely unconnected with the market value. That is meant for generating stamp duty, and that should not be the basis for making people liable to pay tax. Several other provisions also, like Section 56, have to be really thought about because they have become very, very serious tools of harassment and extreme interpretation, whereby you now start taxing notional income, which is never earned by the SSC, but on which he has to pay a substantial amount of tax. The other thing which I would like to see is in the pandemic, a lot of people have been affected. The NGO sector must be encouraged. Of course, we have got enough material or enough resources to tackle the bad apples, but the kind of treatment which is given to NGOs, particularly the proviso to Section 2, subsection 15, whereby any income earned by the NGO is a ground to knock off its charitable status. That should go. We should restore it to the pre-2009 level. And I would also like to see deduction given under Section 37 for amounts contributed for corporate social responsibility. If the government, with this constraints on funds, cannot do essential services like medical relief, feeding poor orphans, orphanages, etc., many NGOs are doing excellent work, but are completely hamstrung by enormous litigation and massive demands of tax. I would also like to see abolishing of Section 278. There is no ground to say that just because some amount is added or some disallowance is made, it leads to an automatic penalty. That is completely unfair and has to go. On the international tax front, I would like to see an investment treaty, bilateral investment treaty model, which factors in taxation. There is no point excluding taxation. The Indian Model Treaty of 2016 has virtually nobody has accepted it. So if we expect to invite investment from overseas, which will be vital for generating employment, then we'll have to rethink our international policy. We'll have to rethink equalization levy, because these are hugely detrimental to India's image and they make India an unattractive investment destination. In this context, I would conclude by saying that we have to see what are the tax structures of Vietnam, Malaysia, Thailand, where a lot of investment is going. Nobody's coming to India. Many people are going to Vietnam and Thailand because of apart from the ease of doing business, their tax structures are also much more simple. So in my view, we should benchmark that if a company is being set up, let us say to manufacture refrigerators, what is the tax it will pay in Vietnam or in Malaysia or in Thailand? What will be the taxes in India? And if there is a huge gap, you can be rest assured that nobody is going to come to India. Today, it is still cheaper to make it in Vietnam and import it into India. That has to change. We must become the manufacturing base, and everything has to be done in that purpose. The fundamental problem, in my opinion, is that each department acts in a separate silo, in a separate vertical. They act in a unidimensional way. Income tax is concerned only with tax collection. GST is concerned only with GST. I think it will be nice if the finance minister can put all this into one basket, and all these departments, whether GST, income tax, so on, should have one single aim of making India grow as fast as possible and try to reach the 5 trillion mark in the next 7-8 years if we can. I think the finance minister's responsibility is very serious this time. If we continue with the old policies, then we'll have a serious problem on our hands, and we'll never be able to catch up the rest of the world. It's very clear that if you keep doing the same thing, you'll keep getting the same results. So I hope there is a complete shift in the way we approach things. We have to make India investment attractive. We can't say that this is what India is. If you want to come, you come. That attitude has to go. We have to be aggressive, proactive, and invite investments with friendly tax policies. Thank you so much to Tax Sutra, and wish all the viewers a happy new year. Hope we have very good news on Monday. Thank you.